Oh, YouTube. Happy holidays. All right, I'm Taylor. Welcome back to my channel. This is my weekly comic book review show. I'm recording this after my company's holiday Christmas party, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Or bourbon. Salty bourbon. No, salty bourbon's gross. And I'm adjusting my camera, and it is not going well, so we are going to live with it. You can see the power thingy. Outlet. Words are hard, people. So we're off to a rocking start. All right, it's December. Well, I'm recording this on the 22nd. It'll be out on the 23rd. I read all these before the party. I'm reviewing them after. Happy holidays. Let's get into it. Worst to best. Worst of the week, which is sad because it has the demon on it. Justice League Incarnate. I'm just not digging this. There's a first appearance in here. A little bit of spoilers. The Batwoman who laughs. The artwork is so damn uneven, though. Like I get what they're doing. They're like having different artists for every dimension these characters are in, or every dimension it's going. But it's just disjointed, and it doesn't fit, and it doesn't work. And the story's just not very interesting, honestly. Like I know there's gonna be other people that argue that it's great and fantastic and stuff, and I think they're either really into DC lore or they're kind of homers, because this is just so uneven and so kind of frustrating to read that you're like, gosh, get somewhere. There's a couple cool moments with Captain Carrot and Wizards. Yeah, I said it. But on the whole, this is just a disappointing read, and I think I'm done with it. Maybe I'll collect it in the trade. I'll probably read it at DC Universe Unlimited, because I don't have to pay for this shit every month. But, yeah, no thank you. All right. Next, we have Ms. Marvel #1, or Ms. Marvel Beyond the Limit #1. Okay, every other book this week is multiversal in some way, and I don't know if they all just got a boner after watching No Way Home and thought, we gotta have the multiverse and everything. Probably not, because this is all would have been written and taught before the movie came out, but whatever. I figured I'd pick this up because it's a #1. It should be a good starting point, a good jumping on point, and it's fine. The artwork just isn't very exciting. It's pretty pedestrian and boring. I'm sorry to Andre Genelo. I'm butchering that. And also, the writing is pretty pedestrian and boring. Like, with the younger characters, you kind of want some kind of crisis or something going on. And there's a little bit, but like, Samir Ahmed's version of Ms. Marvel just seems so, like, honestly clueless as to, like, possible dangers and troubles. It just doesn't seem very realistic, and I get multidimensional comic book hero, not super realistic. There's a little bit of a twist at the end that's at least mildly entertaining, and the reveal of the character at the end is fine. I don't know. It's just not for me. So yeah, Ms. Marvel #1. No thanks. All right. Remember, Brian Michael Bendis? He was the darling poster child of the world for a bit. He did Jinx. He did Jessica Rabbit. No, Jessica Jones, and every other thing. Miles Morales. And did he do Miles? I can't remember. Probably. Yeah, he did actually. Now he's doing sci-fi. Joy Operations #2. I think I just accidentally added this entire damn series to my pull list, and it should probably come off of it. It's indecipherable science fiction. Like the Bendis is not giving you a way in. Like he's like trying to treat it like peeling an onion, where you're like slowly getting bits and pieces of the world, and you're supposed to like be intrigued and like follow along and give a shit. The problem is, it's not that goddamn interesting. Like, there's a voice in this lady's head telling her to do stuff. But what she's supposed to do isn't clear. What the voice isn't clear yet. And what she's not supposed to do isn't clear. So, like, there's no clarity in this. I don't know if it's an ongoing... It might be forgivable, but the pacing is just so damn frustrating on this. Like, you only have, like, an issue or two to hook people. And this is 2 issues in, and I'm not hooked. There's no hook to it. There's nothing to grab onto. It's just such a incoherent, gobbledygooky science fiction terminology mess that no. All right, next, the last session #1. This is by Mad Cave Studios, and it is. I like the cover, and it's based on these, and it's written by Jasmine Wells and art by Dozer Draws, which the art is very cartoony and kind of Man Cave Studios has this sort of house style it's starting to turn into, and that's kind of this. The writing, it's okay. It's all these friends that have gotten together throughout the years to play Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and they're getting together to sort of play one last one after a couple years off. And one of the players has a new girlfriend who's joining in the campaign, and that's it. There's not much else to this issue. It has the potential to be a human drama. It has the potential to be kind of interesting in that regards, but just nothing much really happens in here, and it's just kind of dull. I think that's an interesting enough idea, and I think you can have like character dynamics like that interplay between like the player characters and then the real world quote unquote real world counterparts, and I think it could be interesting. But what is happening in here is just not. It's a first issue, and it just really didn't grab me. It's just kind of like a slice of life, but it's a very, very, very boring slice. It's sort of like, I don't know, a red delicious apple that's sliced. It's just like, oh, it's an apple, and it's going to taste okay, but it's like the crappiest, most boring of all the apples. It's like, well, all right, guess I'll eat the damn apple. All right, Maw number 4. This is just taking a weird old turn, and it's gone into straight up horror element. Dealing with still the after effects of sexual abuse and an assault and stuff, and the characters are now in the getting revenge stage of assault, and some of it's like about like dealing with what is justified as far as revenge goes and what isn't, and it's fantastical elements are coming in. I don't want to spoil this a whole lot. It's not horrible, but if you're not into this yet, it's pretty safe to say you can wait for a trade paperback. Also, it is not the easiest read to get into either. It's just there's not a ton of ways in for the reader as far as like if you haven't experienced it. The characters are just not empathetic or sympathetic necessarily on any regarded side of this. Not that there's two sides. I'm misspeaking. Sexual assault's horrible and stuff, and obviously, it's just that the characters that have dealt with it are, from my perspective, not very developed as characters. There's just not a lot to them as an actual character. So there's just when you're reading it, there's just not a ton to grasp onto as far as like relating or empathizing or understanding what's going on other than just the actions. So it's okay, but it's not fantastic. All right, House of Slaughter number 3. Dear God, is this a boring goddamn book? They finally started fighting some monsters in here, and like the relationshipy stuff started to finally sort of happen, but like it sort of just seems like Titan has forgotten to tell how to tell a decent story, and it just said instead we're going to take what could be really cool and just make it boring as goddamn hell. And like Deladera's art is boring as hell, and the layouts are boring as hell, and the action sequences when they are boring as hell. This has just been goddamn boring thus far, and it needs to start doing something. Anything. Like, I mean, there's a bit that happens here with the drama, but like the way it's presented, it just deadens it down so like you don't feel the consequences as the reader. You're just kind of like left in here. It's like, oh, okay, well that happened, and I guess that decision does make sense now. But Tate Bromball's script is not helping matters. I don't know if Tate I think Tate's probably doing the heavy lifting on this based on an outline by James Tynion, but I could be wrong. And the illustrations by Chris Sheehan with Deladera is doing the design. So like this is like the handoff from Tynion, and it shows that it's not like Tynion's fingerprints are sort of on the outline of this, but they're really developed in this book, and it's just like it's the bastard stepchild of something that's killing the children, and it's just not great. It's middling at best. All right, Hawkeye number 2. This is Hawkeye Bishop number 2. This is okay. Kate's kind of an annoying character in here, but she's kind of annoying, I think, in other writers. And like, she's trying to solve some things, and there's internal monologuing, and there's texting as a kind of annoying story device. And the problem this suffers from is it's trying, I think, too hard to be hip instead of just telling the damn story. But the story itself is not horrible, and there's an intriguing enough mystery that's getting set up in here. It's decent. It's not awful, but it's not great. It's okay. If you're watching the Hawkeye show, you might dig the Kate Bishop in here. It's just the characterization seems a little off and a little bit too like annoying, but it's okay. Am I gonna switch these? Yeah, I'm gonna switch these. The Dark Knight, One Dark Knight, sorry, by Jock. Art's gorgeous, mostly. Not a lot of backgrounds in here. Jock is doing the heavy lifting on all of it, the coloring, the writing, the everything else, not the lettering. But like, it's he knows how to tell a dynamic story and make it interesting and visually very exciting. Like he's a great visual artist. Just the story itself is so middle of the road and so like, yep, that's a Batman story. Yeah, that's probably happened before. New villain, but like everything else about it, it's like, okay, if you hear the setup and think of what's going to happen, it's what happens in this book. Like it is very predictable, and the dialogue just feels like it's a first-time writer writing a Batman book. It doesn't feel naturalistic at all, and it just feels stilted, and like I don't know, first-timey. I mean, it's not the end crime of the world, but like if you've seen any movie where things go horribly wrong, or any show where things go horribly wrong, or read any comic book where things go horribly wrong, you've done this. It's just nothing new to the table. Venom number 3. This is not bad. This is Ram V and Dylan's just being a little Dylan. He doesn't want to bond with the symbiote. Daddy's dead, and or thinks his dad's dead, or something that's going on. And government conspiracy stuff. It's not groundbreaking. It's not the end of the world bad. It's not the end of the world great. It's Dylan. Brian Hitch's art is solid for Hitch. You're going to have all the Hitchisms, which is a fairly heavy incline, well drawn and like well thought out panels and stuff. It's competent. It's solid, and I'll keep it up. It's got to be hooked enough on this that I think it could go somewhere interesting. And, like what they're trying to do with Dylan, I think, has the potential. There's also a new character in here if you're specking on that kind of thing. So it's all right. Yeah. It's not that this is not a great week for comics for the most part. There's just lots of all right stuff. Like King Conan number 1. It's all right. This is Conan. Wakes up on a desert island. Not desert, or deserted. But turns out it's not so deserted and somebody wants to kill him. That's this. You learn a little bit more if you've been following Savage Adventures. That might make a little more sense. I have not, but it just sort of seems like a Conan adventure. Like, okay, a wizard wants to kill Conan. That's this issue. Again, it's entertaining enough. It's not going to break any new ground. You might learn some bits and pieces about this villain if you give a shit, but I didn't because I had no past interaction with him. It just seems like a flavor of the week villain. The ending makes it seem like it has maybe a little bit more interesting things that could go on, but like the so-called clever twist in here isn't all that clever, and fine plus. Speaking of fine plus, was Jason Aaron, by the way, on writing and Asrar on illustration. This is Jason Aaron and Aaron Cooter, and we're looking at Adventures Forever number 1. Apparently, this is supposed to be the first appearance of Peggy Carter, but she's appeared somewhere else in comics as Captain Carter, and she's not in the book. She's not. She's right there. But she's not in the damn book. This is a multiversal tale of madness and multiverse. See, another multiverse thing. The multiverse has its fingerprints everywhere, and it's very multiversy. There's things that are going to be familiar but different, and there's one character trapped from our universe, or the main Marvel universe, in this multiverse, and it's solid. I mean, I like this a lot better than the DC's Infinite, whatever the hell that was called. But it's not going to break. I mean, there's a giant threat. There's a ragtag band that's getting put together, and you're going to have to deal with it. We don't really know what the threat is, and the characters are going to be different versions of the characters you're used to. So it's a multiverse book. All right. We got a couple left. Nightwing. This tells a story that if you lay it out, it could all be... Well, they say this. They say you could lay it out like side by side and it would all work as a story. And yeah, okay, it does. Basically, it's a story device where if you were to lay this all out in one giant long panel, it would read as a story. And it's a cool story device. It's visually awesome, visually excellent actually, and it's just a nifty way of experimenting with comics. It's not super unique. I've seen it done before. There's a Moon Knight issue that did it, and the Ice Cream Man that also sort of did it. Ice Cream Man I think did it better. It's cool, but there's just nothing to the story. Really, nothing much at all. You can tell the story in 4 panels, maybe 2 pages if you really want to spread it out. So they just took this kind of short ass story and used it as a visual experiment, which is not bad. It's a decent visual experiment and it's cool to look at. I just wanted to get back to telling decent stories, and we're not quite there yet, but it's not awful. Nightwing number 87. And that's Taylor Redondo. I'm glad Redondo's back on this, and I'm sure this took a ton of time for Redondo to put together visually, because I mean it's just lining this all up and stuff. It would have been a nightmare to draw, and like require a ton of planning. And I'm not trying to belittle that accomplishment. It is a hell of an accomplishment. It's just the story itself. It's very light. All right, Moon Knight number 6. This is Marvel's one of Marvel's 2 good books. Like this and Strange Academy are the only 2 that are probably. I mean, Thor's okay, but Thor's been gotten weak lately too. But this is one of Marvel's best books. Jed McKay on writing and Capuccio, Alessandro Capuccio on art. Alessandro Capuccio reminds me of like Werther Deladera's art from Something's Killing the Children, but more dynamic and quite frankly, I'd say better, without having to use like panel tricks to tell a story. I think Capuccio's art does like have the same sense of raw energy that Deladera sometimes has, but I think it's a better implementation of it. This is sort of wrapping up the first story arc, and it's a nice, solid wrap-up. Moon Knight gets his ass whooped, and you learn like what's going on in this, like his environment and the characters that all sort of somewhat come together to save him reluctantly, or not so reluctantly, and it's like a good progression forward of the tale. It's not breaking a ton of new ground. There are new-ish characters that have been introduced in this series that I don't want to spoil if you've not read it, that are acting the way you'd expect them to act. They're acting within character, and it is a solid issue. It's on a better week, it might have been middle ground. Again, it's not bad at all. This is one of my top 2 books of the week. It's just kind of been a light week. And my best book of the week, my favorite book, my least unfine, my finest, is A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance number 3. This is mostly visually told. There's not a lot of dialogue, although look at those word bubbles, huh? There's more in this than there have in the other 2 issues put together, and you learn more, finally, sort of what's going on in this as far as the main character, and there's some revelations. It's gorgeous. Like, I think Andre Lima Araujo's art is fantastic, and I've heard it described as minimalist, but it's not. It's just sparse. There's lines. Like there's not like a lot of extra lines added. It reminds me a bit of Jeff Darrow, but it's just Jeff Darrow if somebody took an eraser to half of Jeff Darrow's shit, or not Jeff Gary Frank, not Gary. Yeah, that would work too. But I mean, I think that it's a master class in visual storytelling and like dynamism and like how to tell a story without having dialogue get in the way. And the dialogue that, when it is added, is necessary. There's not a lot of waste to this book. I think it's very well done. I don't know how many issues are going to be total of this, but it's been solid the first 2, and this one continues the path, and it is my favorite book of the week. So Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, number 3. All right, that's about all I've got. That's what I've read this week. Let me know if you've read it, any of the things. Have a happy holidays. We'll see you once more this year, right? Probably. Yeah, or at the end of the year. I don't know, something. Have a good one. Don't be a dick, even if it's Christmas, because Christmas makes everybody the dicks. For some reason, people really start to give a shit about shopping and all sorts of other bullshit, and I don't know. Who the fuck cares? Just be nice to each other. Oh, well.